All right. It's ridiculous to a lot of Nigerians and highly hypocritical when you say Nigerians, some Nigerians, lives of Nigerians are better off now than it was before this government took over. There are those who believe in the opposition, and many Nigerians who believe that this country is worse off than it used to be before President Bola Tinubu took over. But you said that you have a counter-narrative to that.
Well, you see, and you have to give me time because this is a sensitive subject. Just give me some time. You see, in 1922, Lord Frederick Lugard released a book, The Dual Mandate, and he said something about the black African of the Nigerian variety. And he said that this is a race that is excitable, very emotional. And 104 years after he said that, I don't know if a lot has changed because our people tend to be emotional. Our people, you know, if we can be sentient and if we can dwell on three things, statistics, facts, and data, which cannot lie, we see that things are actually better in this country. Look, if you cast your mind back, you know, and I'm not going to respond to Waziri Atiku Abubakar because, I mean, he's a man that I respect. So I will never disagree with him publicly. So please don't even bring that up. I will respond to someone like Dele Momodu who said the same thing. He said that things are worse off than 10 years ago. So let's look at that time frame. Now, 10 years ago, what was happening in this country? In this country, the only geopolitical zone that was relatively peaceful 10 years ago was the Southwest. Every part of this country was destabilized. In the South-South, you had Niger Delta militancy had returned. This was something that was dead from 2010 after President Yar'Adua did the amnesty program, but it reared its ugly head again 10 years ago. We had Niger Delta Avengers. They were bombing critical infrastructure in the oil and gas industry. And Nigeria went from 1.9 million barrels in 2014 to less than half of that in 2016. I don't know if you remember. Now, we went from an oil revenue of 68.44 billion to an oil revenue in 2016 of 17 billion. Now, that was in the Niger Delta, in the South-South. All over the South-South, the military had to come in. We had something that was called Operation Crocodile Smile. I don't know if you remember. And then in the Southeast, you had agitation for secession. People did not even know why that was happening. It was happening because people in the Southeast felt that they were shut out of that government. There was nobody in the Southeast heading any of the 17 security or paramilitary organizations. There was secession all over in the Southeast. Then it led to the Monday sit-at-homes. And then you had 128 police stations. And if you're watching at home, you can fact-check me, that were shut down. And then you move over to the Northeast. And in the Northeast, according to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee, half of Borno State was under Boko Haram, 2016. You can also Google this at home, or you can use Grok, whatever AI you like. And then you move to the Northwest. In the Northwest, between Abuja and Kaduna, the road was a death trap. It was at that time the deadliest road on earth. And then in Southern Kaduna, you had the Southern Kaduna genocide, which was, there was a massive killing taking place that the governor of that state came to Channel Television, I don't know if you remember, Channel Television, and said he was paying these killer headsmen not to kill. But it didn't work. And then also in Kaduna, there was a harsh, very, very harsh, let's say, attack on the Shia population in Nigeria. In Kaduna, and then you move to other parts, and then we're seeing in Katsina, even where Buhari was from, the sitting president, it was so destabilized. And then in Kanu, there was a situation whereby even the Dobras had to be cancelled at some point. So these are 5 geopolitical zones. In the North Central, we've seen that there were attacks. And don't forget, we had the 157 Battalion, Mitili, where Boko Haram attacked them, killed about 300 of our soldiers. The New York Times and the Washington Post, they reported that Boko Haram had surface-to-air missiles, and that the Nigerian government at that time had to pay them to retrieve it. So, you know, our people, we tend to forget where we're coming from. And then we get very emotional. I mean, we say things like, look, right now in this country, the South-South is at peace. There are no military campaigns there. The Southeast is at peace right now. The Monday sit-at-home is gradually phasing out. The 2 agitators, Simon Ekpa, has been convicted and is in prison as a result of the request by the Nigerian government that sent evidentiary material to Finland. The one that was doing the stuff here, he was caught in Kenya, brought home, and then by this administration he was tried and then convicted. He's in Sokoto. The region is now completely peaceful. Those police stations, well, okay, that might be hyperbole. But at least compared to what it was in 2016, the 128 police stations have been reopened. Now, if you go to the northwest, you see that the Abuja-Kaduna road, on this station, it was played. I went on that road with journalists from various media, and we did not go with security. Nothing happened to us. Kidnappings on that road have come to a standstill. There's security there. Okay, you look at the Shia situation. The Shia situation, there's no Shia situation in Nigeria. The Nigerian state is no longer at war with the Shias. If you look at Borno state, there is no local government in Borno that is under Boko Haram. Yes, you still have,
there's several communities in Borno, in part of Borno, south, I guess, now that Boko Haram is still majorly...
Yes, but allow me. Boko Haram was in control of local governments 10 years ago. They are no longer in control of any local governments. They do what they call hit-and-run attacks, which are very opportunistic, and then they use IED. They attack military stations. But don't forget, 2016, they attacked the Nigerian Defense Academy. They went there. They killed soldiers. They attacked the Nigerian Army University in Biu. They went there. They killed soldiers. They attacked the Presidential Brigade of Guard. You know what that is? That is the president's personal bodyguard. They attacked them in Bari. I don't know if you recall. I mean, in this day and age, those things don't happen. You had 600 terrorists in motorbikes. They went to Kuje prison. They freed 879 terrorists. I actually said 849. I went back and fact-checked. It was actually 879 terrorists. This was happening in this country. You had a train, Abuja-Kaduna train. It was bombed. These things are no longer happening. Boko Haram was on the tarmac of Kaduna Airport. Kaduna Airport had to be closed. And then people were bused from Abuja to Kaduna. So if you look at the facts, 10 years ago, Nigeria was rated by the GTI as the third most terrorized nation in the world. Today, we are not even in the top 5.
Right. Let's get some of the issues. And it is good for you to, when you're doing governance analyses and appraisals, based on what a government or a person in government says, I will do. And that those who will say, if you take the president by his words, they will be able to find failures in them. And the very now popular one is the issue of power. And the president said himself, if I cannot give you power in 4 years, don't vote for me. When I come to you after 4 years, do not vote for me. And
are you sure that the president said that? Because
did he get on tape? I don't know if my producer
let your people show it. Because let the people show it. Because I'm not aware that the president said that. I have seen headlines of some people saying that he said that. I'm not aware that he said that. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, I can share the video with you if my producers get it ready. The president said this was before the election, and the question we'll be asking is that if by that judgment, should anybody look in the direction of APC or President Tinubu? Do we have power?
Okay, now, so before we go to power, let us talk about, we talked about this security, but let's finish that because it's very important.
No, because of our time.
Yeah, I'll be very fast.
I'm talking specifically on things that the president said, I will do. By the way, the president said, hold me to my words.
I'll be very, very fast.
I campaigned for this. I ask you to give me this, and I will. Those are the promises the president made.
I'll be very fast. So like I said, in 2016, we are the third most terrorized nation in the world. Now, we are not even in the top 5. If you look at last December, we had 1.2 million tourists come into Nigeria, Lagos. There was not one robbery, not one domestic incident, not one, nothing significant happened. Nobody was killed. In February, we had 50,000 fishermen and 500,000 spectators at Kebbi for Argungu Fishing Festival. Not one person was killed, no domestic incident. Last year, June 8th, at Ojude Oba, we had 200,000 people from all over the world. They came there. Nobody was killed. We have localized security issues, but the thing is that Nigeria is much better than it was 10 years ago. It's wrong for you to use emotion. Nigerians, they can just say, which one? Na statistic I go chop. That's how we are. That's why Lord Lugard said that we are very excitable persons. If we can stick with facts and figures, we see that this country has improved. You talk about the economy. You were there. You saw
the issue of security that you were mentioning, there are those who say, yes, there are gains that are being made, but yet people are still being killed.
Yes,
This is what
because
the
security
said,
is not. Can I respond to that? Security does not improve overnight. It improves over time.
You
not
saw
just
what happened in Benin.
Yes, it improves over time.
You know what?
There was one incident
in Katsina, in Sokoto.
There was one incident in Benue, and there were several little incidents before that. But what was happening 10 years ago? Remember, on Christmas Day, there were multiple attacks, and then the president will ask the Inspector General of Police to go there. The Inspector General of Police would not even obey the president. The president went there and was weeping, and then he came back, and the same thing kept on happening and happening. We are not seeing that now. We are seeing that we are having effective security applications now. Things are getting better, but they are not going to get better overnight. It's going to get better over time.
And it's going to take more than 3 years to resolve.
Of course, obviously. Look, it can only take you one try to jump into a ditch. But to jump out of that ditch, it might take you 100 attempts.
So let's go quickly to the issue of power.
Okay.
The president said, if I don't provide it, don't vote for him, don't re-elect him.
Well, now, like, I'm going to say this now. I haven't seen that, but let me just say, because I have confidence in you, so let me take your word as true. But I'm going to tell you something there. When he said that, maybe he was contesting, maybe he wasn't in government, so he didn't know what was in government. I was in government under President Jonathan. The Nigerian power industry or power sector has been privatized. So there is very little a president can do. The only part that has not been privatized, and it must be privatized if you go by the roadmap to power sector reforms, is the transmission. So if a president comes in, if a presidential candidate comes and says that, okay, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, he is limited by what he can do.
So you are saying Nigeria should forgive the president for saying what he knows he cannot do?
First and foremost, I have to see what the president said so that I can accurately, litigate that.
Let me take you to the issue of the economy because we don't have time.
Okay.
There are those who said that this president plunged this country into a lot of economic troubles. Inflation rate, unemployment rate, debt profile, exchange rate. It didn't take the president 2 months for all of these indices to go in the red.
Well, that is not true. And let me respond to that. Because we don't have time, let me quickly respond to that. 2016, 10 years ago, we had a recession. We had 2 recessions.
But I'm talking about the indices before he took over. December 2022, I have the figures. I'm asking you specific, so that we're not going back to 20. And by the way, it was Jonathan that was in power, and that's your very close ally.
That was 2016, President Jonathan was not in power. President Jonathan left power in 2015. But when this president took office, the inflation rate was 24%. As I speak to you right now.
APC government.
Yes, but let me land. When he took office, May 29, 2022, please fact check. The inflation rate was 24%. Today, as I'm speaking to you right now, food inflation in Nigeria is 8.89.
And food prices are not easing at all.
Oh, that is not true.
True.
Even the president's greatest critic, Peter Obi. Please, can I finish, please? Even the president's greatest critic, Peter Obi, was on TV, and your station showed it. This was 5 days ago, where he said that food prices in Nigeria have crashed, and he was complaining that this president is impoverishing farmers. And then people made a mockery of him. If Peter Obi can say that food prices have crashed, who are you to say that they've not crashed? A bag of rice has gone down from 100,000, I think right now it's about 55,000. Gari, which is a staple in Nigeria, has gone down. Food prices has gone down. It's not right to say that food prices have not gone down. And please, let me finish. The president made inflation at 24%. Today, it is 8.89, food inflation. The president met the foreign reserve at less than 30 billion. That is when you talk about net foreign reserves. Today, our foreign reserves are 50 billion, approaching 51 billion. The president met a GDP that was, I think it was about, just slightly under 200 trillion. Right now, our GDP is about 376 trillion naira, which is, he's added $67 billion to the economy in 2 years. By the time they rebase, I'm sure it's going to be much more. So how can you say that the president has been worsening things? No, that's not true.
You look at the because you just have 60 seconds to close. The macroeconomy and the microeconomy, they're not talking.
But that is not true, because food prices have gone down. Fuel has been stabilized. In 2022, when this president took over, Nigeria was the #1 importer of fuel in the whole of Africa. As I speak to you today, we are the #1 exporter of fuel in West Africa. South Africa has taken over from us as the #1 importer of fuel in Africa. Right now, we export fuel to almost every West African country and to Spain and then to the United Kingdom. I have seen the ships leaving Nigeria. So there is progress. It is not right. It is not factually correct for you to say that he has put things in the red. That is not true. This president has made significant gains. Nigeria is better today than it was.
I put the snapshots for Nigerians. Unfortunately, there's no time for us to. I wish that we could. I prepared more for you on the economy, but unfortunately, you stayed more on the security. But that's fine. I would say kudos to the Nigerian military and our security operatives for their work. Every day, I will give them the salute. But the issue of the economy, I wish we had more time to deal with this matter.
God spared my life.
I don't agree. I put the snapshot.
No, God spared my life after Kilimanjaro, and then I go back and see my family.
If you survive
I could come back. Well, I believe that the day that I'm going to die, God has set it. And so I have no fear. That's why I do mountain climbing.
Reno Omokri, Ambassador Designate, thank you so much, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show today.